Hi friends, welcome back. So I want to give you an update what's going on in the markets today and also too what's going on around the world. And unfortunately, we have to talk about the fighting in the Middle East. Unfortunately, because it just keeps getting worse and we're worried about full-scale war. I've been following the last couple of days. Israel had the whole pager explosion thing. And then Lebanon was firing missiles at Israel. Now Israel's conducting airstrikes. The fighting is getting worse. Israel has issued a warning to civilians, basically evacuate. So it means that we're preparing for a large scale fighting. Whether or not this becomes like all out war, that's sort of the biggest fear, of course. But already we saw the situation in Gaza, and this looks like something similar. The headline is Israel strikes kill more than 490 in Lebanon, the deadliest single day in decades. So the regular people just got a text something like this, and I guess we haven't seen a day like this since 2006. I'll read it here. It says, "No day has been as bloody in Lebanon since Israel tanks rolled over its border in 2006, triggering a 34-day roll with Hezbollah." So, last time it was 34 days of fighting. Will it be the same, this time? The thing is, though, is already the situation in Gaza, and now you add this on top of it, and the USA is sending troops. They said it was like a limited amount of troops. But I just, my heart goes out to the regular civilians. And we actually have someone in the community that said their aunt died in these attacks. So I felt really sorry to hear that. And I'm very sorry for all this thing. I just hope the fighting stops. There's 1,645 people injured. 192 people died and 35 children have been killed. So if you wonder my thoughts on this stuff, why I care about these things, you may or may not know. I lost my family at the end of the Vietnam War, so I take this stuff very seriously. And just when I see these kind of images of civilians, just running for their lives, I just feel really sorry about the whole thing. I just feel sorry about the whole thing, and I just hope we can stop fighting. The problem is that in this situation, right, it's Israel and Hezbollah. Israel attacks, Hezbollah attacks back, Israel attacks back, and they just keep going this endless cycle of revenge, and it just ends up being just a bloody war until all sides lose. No one really wins in this kind of stuff. So I just hope that we can limit the fighting, and for regular people, I read reports or people are talking about they don't have enough food. Where are they gonna where are they gonna go? And it's all really a shame. So I just wanted to acknowledge that this is happening and this is what's going on around the world. In our markets today, because this is related. So you can see at a mixed market. Sorry, it's hard to talk. It's one of the things that did stand out though is oil stocks and energy stocks were up, right? So that was the ones that were up today. So energy stock was up the most. And then our Fed is talking about rate cuts again. So this has been something that is a concern, right? So the Fed keeps telling you the economy is strong and stuff like that, but now they're talking about, okay, we just did 50 basis points. Are we going to do another yet bigger cuts? Essentially how this works now, I guess the next meeting is going to be right after the election, like a couple days right after it. And, the bet is, and they keep saying this, is like, we're going to be cutting several times. One of the Fed people said, getting down to neutral rates. So neutral rates sort of like, okay, when are you going to be done? When is it going to be sort of the rate where you're not restrictive, you're not accommodative, you're just, neutral. The bet right now, that's at 2.9%. So we'll see. And it's so far ahead that no one knows. And when you see this kind of uncertainty in the Middle East, it adds to the just, no one really knows for sure, to be perfectly frank. But the Fed is signaling cutting. So the question is just how much at this point. We're worried about a couple things when you look at this stuff is, what is growth going forward? And also too, how do jobs look, right? So there's those things. One thing that's really interesting is what's going on in China. So they're facing growth concerns already over there. And every time I check over there, there's always something that where, the government's trying to figure out how can we stimulate people to basically start spending money again? How can we get banks to lend out more money? But people obviously, want to play it safe in this kind of situation because you have a real estate meltdown over there, and again with all this, uncertainty, and young people in China, the unemployment spiking over there. So this is young people in China from age 16 to 24. Unemployment, I guess, is 18.8%. So it's very high. And, this matters to, say, the US markets because, as I would tell you guys, say Apple, releases a new phone, they're going to release, or actually, we just saw it, and I just mentioned before on the channel, their new iPhone 16. And will that sell in China? Will American companies be able to sell, products to people? But it's like, if young people don't have jobs, the last thing they're going to do is buy, $1,000 phone, or if they have alternate, local brands that they can buy, that quality seems fine and the price is maybe half or whatever, they're just going to go with that. And so that's sort of why, again, you're concerned about growth, and you're concerned about also this, how can I say, what's the appetite that consumers have, given the uncertainties in the world. So you have the meltdown of China's economy, and then you have the fighting in the Middle East. We also have this stuff too, and this is in the U.S. situation, and it's kind of it's not kind of, the best way to describe this stuff, and the sort of guys, I like to talk about this stuff every day. I think it's important to just have rational talk about these things, is regardless of what national numbers say. So if the Fed comes out and says, hey, the economy's awesome, everyone's doing great, but if you're like a Boeing worker and you're on strike, it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I need my job to pay me more. So Boeing, they're offering their workers, they bumped up the pay raise. Before it was 25%, now they're offering 30%. But this is over a multi-year period. I think it's like over a 4-year period or something like that. And Boeing's claiming this is their final offer. I think the union has until, I think it's like something like September 27th. So it was like a week from now or something like that to decide if they want to take the deal. When I see this kind of stuff, I just, feel sorry for workers. I mean, if they feel like they need this much of a pay increase, it means, probably that haven't been paid enough for years. But the Boeing workers are not alone. Several people out there where the issue has been inflation has really, spiked, but their wages haven't. And Boeing had this weird thing with the unions I talked about before on the channel, to where the last time they passed a major deal, they passed it like on a holiday, so not everyone got a vote, and it was kind of done in a sneaky way. And then the key sort of agreement was that the workers wouldn't get more than 4% a year in increases. And so, from what I can understand, the workers now just want to make sure they get a really good deal going forward. And you pay attention to this stuff in the markets, right? Because obviously, and this is where I always tell you guys, you want to be on both sides if you can. Be on the worker side, have a good job, have that steady income coming in, and also just be on the management ownership side, to where you're enjoying the profits of the company, right? So that's how you build wealth. You got to be able to do both things. And from the worker perspective, just in the Boeing case situation, it was like, I mean, I see you guys are making money over there, right? What about us? And then there's it depends on which companies, but some companies they try to pay their workers as little as possible in order to maintain their profit margin. So I can't speak to the Boeing situation other than there's a lot of corruption over there, safety issues and things like that, and I just hope things get resolved. And just unfortunately, though, this is the kind of stuff that we look at when we talk about the markets. There's always these kind of things, especially right now when things are slowing down and companies are looking to make cuts to maintain margins. It's just what it is, right? If there's not enough business coming in. So like, for example, this is a battery company in Europe. I guess it's the biggest one over there, Northvolt. They're cutting 20% of their jobs. I just talked to you guys about it's a couple days ago where GM, they're laying off a bunch of workers to retool their factory, right? And we actually have someone in the community that has family members that work at that plant. I think this is in Kansas. And they said kind of what the rumor on the street is that if you're a temporary or maybe part-time, like not like the full-time permanent people, when they do these layoffs, you may not be coming back. And if you're full-time, chances are you'll come back, but no one knows for sure. I'll say, however, we know that companies like a Stellantis, for example, I think there's been other ones out there that end up offering buyouts for employees, right? So, at this stage in the game, like that's what we're talking about, everything, right? What's going on in the world, what's going on in the job market, what's happening in individual companies. And, the saying is, if your neighbor loses their job, it's a recession. If you lose your job, it's a depression. One of the reasons why it's always good to save and invest, set money aside, is you just don't know what's coming down the pipeline. You just don't know. And so, always be prepared for that kind of stuff. Here's another thing that's going on in the news, and I like to go over everything with you guys. So now we may have another offer on Intel. Before it was Qualcomm was in talks to buying Intel. Now we got like a hedge fund kind of thing called Apollo. They're looking to jump in on the Intel thing, and that's the latest deal. Whether or not Intel's, an attractive thing, I'll let you guys be judges of that. I know they've had all sorts of problems with their tech lately, poor management, but I don't think Intel will necessarily fail. Someone will come in and buy it. Whether or not the government keeps giving, backing to Intel, we'll see. But this is something that is going to be an interesting one. I mentioned before, guys. I mean, theoretically, Nvidia could have tried to acquire Intel, parts of it at least, but that's probably not going to happen because remember, Intel is engaged in buybacks. And one of the things that happens when these things were, be it Apollo or Qualcomm, when it, this stuff leaks out that they're looking to get Intel, it takes time to do these deals because one, you got to get a Fed, or it was three things. One, you got to get like government approval. Is this a monopoly or not? Right? Can we merge? The other one is can I find a match, and will the company agree to make this deal happen? And then you have another issue is like, what if I don't have enough cash on the books to actually make this deal happen? So then I got to start going around the Wall Street or wherever. It could be wherever. So for example, in Musk's situation, he's like went to Wall Street money and they only gave him a certain amount. And then he had to go to Russia, Qatar. He was getting money from P Diddy, right, Puff Daddy, or Sean Combs, or say that guy's name is. So for the Intel deal, who knows where this money is going to come from? Depending on who the buyer is to order to get that. So there's that. So it's interesting to track these things and important to understand what's going on in the market. And there's just a lot of crazy news today. Here's another one. So I guess Exxon, they were lying to the public, at least according to the state of California, about how they're recycling plastics. And if you follow the channel, I just talked about this issue just the other day regarding Tesla, to where Tesla builds their batteries and they claim they recycle 100% of their batteries, but the way they can claim that is by saying, oh yes, we recycle 100%, but they're sending the batteries to a third party and we don't know exactly what's going on with the third party, how much of the batteries are being recycled or whatever. So in the California situation on Exxon, they're just saying, you're not telling us the truth about recycling. I'll read the quote here. This is from the state of California regarding plastic recycling. It says here, the lawsuit alleges Exxon, one of the world's largest producers of plastic, deceived the public for half a century. It's a long time, like 50 years, right? About the sustainability of its plastic products, which include the polymers found in plastic packaging, utensils, and beverage bottles. The lawsuit seeks damages from the oils group for harms inflicted from plastic production. And this is the quote: "For decades, ExxonMobil has been deceiving the public to convince us that plastic recycling could solve the plastic waste and pollution crisis when they clearly knew this wasn't possible. ExxonMobil lied to further its record-breaking profits at the expense of our planet and possibly jeopardizing our health." So we'll see what goes on with this. My feelings for any of these kind of things is I think and this is just for your life, for our society, for everything, we have to have a sustainability, right? Have a lifestyle as a society that's sustainable to our environment, to all of our health, and also too for you. We talk about investing in money. Have a financial sustainable model that makes sense, that where you can keep going living a healthy life and not living under stress all the time or doing things that are unhealthy. Be any number of things, but it's all keeping things in balance the same way that the Fed say got to keep the economies in balance, right? What's going to happen in the future? This was an interesting one. It was Yardini and one of the big players on Wall Street, and he gave a bunch of different estimates of. He tends to be more bullish, right? He's saying this could be outright melt up. Fed cuts mean good things for stocks according to him. But even he's at least giving like, well, it's not 100%. Like he's giving these like wild numbers. I'll tell you what I mean with that. So he's like, hey, this could be a bull market at an 80% chance, or it could be like 20% chance of 1970s, which would be like stagflation. So and then later he changes numbers, so like 80% bull market, 20% stagflation, and then he's like, no, it could be more like the Roaring 20s, but like before I was saying the 60% chance of that, but now it's going to be only 50% chance of that. So it's, no one really knows for sure. That's why the point I'm trying to make with this. And the one thing though is like, guys, when I go through the news every day and I see what's happening around the markets, I see what happens with people's jobs, etc. I just say the same thing as good advice is take care of yourself, take care of your family. You honestly don't know, what's going to happen in the world when you wake up every day. And, one of the things that you do is, why would you want to buy like an index fund or something like that is because you just can't predict all the craziness and scandals that happen in markets. But, overall, money does flow into markets. They do invest in businesses. The way, the US system works is everyone's got money in the 401k and it just, gets into the market, or pension funds, or any number of big organizations, and it just finds its way in the market. And, when you're in index funds, it essentially captures, right, the performance of the market. But I just want to emphasize it's not just that, have some safer things, bonds, CDs, hold some cash. Make sure that you're going to be in a situation to where if there's layoffs at, your work, or, around you, that you're prepared for these kind of stuff. And also, I put this up there. I just hope people are going to be okay in the Middle East. So, and I'll leave it at that. So anyway, please share your thoughts on this stuff. I always appreciate your time, and I'll catch you in the next video.